safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. The Board of Education meeting will be live streamed via our district YouTube channel. And who would like to lead in Pledge of Allegiance? We got here. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. And would you, Heather, like to take roll?
The following board members are present at the District Administration Office: Scott Andresen,
Here.
Natalie Copeland,
Here.
Al Dahlgren,
Here.
Zach Dorholt,
Here.
Diana Fenton,
Here.
Heather Weems here. The following board members are not present: Shannon Hawes. The following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office: Superintendent Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning Nikki Hansen, Executive Director of Special Education Danny Mayer, Executive Director of Finance and Business Services Amy Scalarud, Executive Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations Tracy Flynn Bowe, Executive Director of Innovation and Technology Services, Katie Herbold, Executive Director of Operations, Matthew Boucher, Media Technicians Paul Novak and Gordy Scott, and Custodian on Site, Austin Goodwater.
Okay. And before we move for approval of the board meeting agenda, is there anybody who would like to have any items removed? I think consent agenda, I'm sorry. Yeah. Or wait, first I would ask for approval of the board meeting agenda. I'm sorry,
Second.
right? So call roll?
Heather Weems, yes. Diana Fenton?
Yes.
Zach Dorholt?
Yes.
Al Dahlgren?
Yes.
Natalie Copeland?
Yes.
Scott Andresen?
Yes.
Okay, now for the consent agenda. I believe Natalie Copeland had something you'd like to remove?
Yes, item B.
Okay. Anybody want to second that? Okay.
No, we don't need a second.
Okay, gotcha.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda with item D removed.
All right. Motion approved and seconded by Scott?
Natalie Copeland?
Yes.
Zach Dorholt?
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes. Scott Andresen?
Yes.
Al Dahlgren?
Yes.
Diana Fenton?
Yes.
Item D.
Item D.
And I'm just abstaining from vote.
Got it. Looking for a motion.
I would move that we approve item D.
Second.
A motion by Al Dahlgren, second by Heather Weems?
Diana Fenton? Yes. Zach Dorholt?
Yes.
Al Dahlgren?
Yes.
Scott Andresen?
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes.
Okay. Then we will move into item number 3, information items. Presentation plan to seek feedback on graduation, presented by Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education.
All right. Good evening, Acting Chair Dorholt. Good to see you there. Superintendent Putnam, board members. We're just going to give a quick update on graduation ceremonies update. We had an unfortunate situation at the tech graduation. They got a lot of publicity, media, specifically around spectators that got into an incident within the procession leaving out of the ceremony. We always debrief after graduation or big events where we have folks come in and kind of look at what went well, what didn't go well. Well, with this situation, it got a lot of attention. And So our purpose today is just to gather actionable input from key stakeholders, specifically around future graduation ceremonies, and then focus on safety, belonging, and collaboration with around that. But specifically, when you look at it, it's a small number where these incidents happen, right? When you look across the state, 429 school districts currently, it's a small number when you see that. But for whatever this year, it was out there a lot, you know, when you get anything on media. But history-wise, within the last 13 years, we haven't had any issues, any incidents. So when you look at that with this, we want to get stakeholder feedback because we get emails from stakeholders after graduation all the time. And so one of the strategies specifically, we're going to look at stakeholder feedback strategy. We're going to administer surveys to students and families in August and September. We're going to focus on the current class that just graduated, 25, our current class right now, 26, and then we're going to look at class of 27, the junior class coming in. We want to get feedback from them, and specifically around some themes that we'll look at. We'll use the graduation team data from administrators, St. Cloud PD, and then just stakeholder feedback from all our stakeholders, from students to families and board members. And then we'll gather from all the stakeholder data and then kind of highlight the themes that we saw. And then I'll come back with the principals specifically on October 15th, when we'll have a designated plan on what we need to do for class of 26 in the graduation ceremony. When you look at it, the timeline, we'll look at a 3-week time frame when we'll do that. We'll start out with the distribution of surveys. We'll look at optional listening sessions. Talking to the principals, they felt like when I have my parent meetings or gatherings with families that are already there for it, bring that in. So not just random families. We also talked about when you have like open house and back to school, it'll be good time to get the survey out, right? So we want good feedback and stakeholder participation. And so we kind of mapped it out. We'll look at week 3 and just compile the data, look at the themes. And then when we look at the themes, we'll explore all the main points that came up from the current feedback that we got from stakeholders around dignity and recognition of each graduate, safety and crowd control. We'll look at accessibility and inclusion, just the expectations around enforcement, right? We look at noise, behavior, decorum, and then just communication between the pre-event and then the post-event clarity. And then we'll look at the floor plan of how it's set up. One of the things we got a chance to do was talk to other school administrators and districts heading east on 94 to see, you know, what they did. Was it at their school? How was the setup? When we looked at Mariucci and some of the metro schools, their setup is a little different in the sense that when you look at the floor plan of River's Edge, it's kind of longitudinal. When you looked at some of the other ones, it was more horizontal where the crowd was right, like side of right in there, and it felt more intimate. So we'll look at those things, and then we'll come back with a plan specifically around that. Any questions? It's just an informational item tonight.
As I understand it, 2 parents got into it. It'll be really interesting to see what we did wrong. I don't think we did, but it'll be interesting to see what your report turns out.
Yes.
I just wanted to, in case you did not see it, because it was a late-breaking press release from the St. Cloud Police Department, they did issue charging out on, I believe, 5, Jason?
Yes, it was 5 individuals that took part, were charged out.
Thanks, Dr. Harris. So I think that speaks loudly, right, about who is at fault for that situation. And I also wanted to say, I will gladly gather your feedback in our one-on-ones. I have that on our agenda item so that you'll have a chance to give input, and then I'll pass that on to Dr. Harris as well as we meet next week.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Harrison? Al Dahlgren?
Not so much a question, just a comment, and maybe I should hold it for the one-on-one, but the one thing I would like to see added onto that is I would like to see a general purpose statement, and what is it that we believe graduation should accomplish? And what would it take for us to say that was really good and it did what we wanted it to do? Because I have questions as to, things like, is graduation for the students, is graduation for the families, or is graduation for the community? And in each one of those situations, I think we would approach things differently. So I'd really like to see us define, prior to going out with a survey, define exactly what we want to get out of graduation so that we have a end product in mind. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I think that's it.
Perfect, thank you.
To discussion and action items. Item number A, discussion item 2024-2025 activities update. Leave this. All right. Dr. Jason Harrison take the lead on this one. And go from there.
You're still on, Jeff? Oh, okay.
There we go.
Love the blue and black here. We got a balance.
All right, thank you again, Acting Chair Dorho, Superintendent Putnam, board members. We'll have a chance tonight on a couple of things, specifically with the activities update from Activities Director Heine and then Activities Director Johnson, and just what's been taking place for the 24-25 school year, and all the highlights, and then all the things we've been doing to increase participation, engagement, what's the current trends, what's growing, what's not growing, and then I'll let these two folks take it away.
Perfect. All right, thank you, board members, and Dr. Putnam here for having us tonight. We're excited to present kind of our year in review, and also some of the exciting things we have coming up for this school year and continuing to implement beyond. But again, I'm Carl Heine, the Activities Director at Apollo High School, moving into my third year here.
And I'm Hillary Johnson, Activities Director at Tech, and I just started my first year on July 1st.
And I roped her into coming right away, so we got it going. Just looking at our agenda tonight, every year we have to go through an annual Minnesota State High School League agreement and renew our membership with the high school league, and then go through our celebrations and updates of last year, and then also, again, like I said, our 25-26 moving forward. So starting off with our Minnesota State High School League, if you've been in the past, you've seen we've played a video in this spot. This year, the high school league didn't send an updated video. They sent a letter, which was included in the agenda there for you to read on your own. But again, stating that partnership, that we are a community, we're extension of the classroom and in education, supporting coaches, officials, administrators in that sportsmanship sense, and creating those safe, respectful environments for all of our students to be able to grow and succeed. And the letter explains it a little bit more in detail, some of the new things coming with the Minnesota State High School League. But as we reported last year and kind of alluded to, the approval of the 9th grade governance. So now the Minnesota State High School League is sanctioned 9th through 12th grade. So our 9th grade students now fall under that catastrophic injury with the high school league. So that was a big thing where not all of the students were covered. And so there was kind of a gray area, and now this solidifies that line a little bit more. 7th and 8th grade students participating on a 7-12 high school team do fall into that piece, but it was those standalone lower level teams that were not supported under that high school league. So that's the big addition. The continuation of these different sportsmanship initiatives with the SALT and engaging our students in those collaborative conversations with other leaders in other buildings around the state, and kind of bringing what does it feel like to be a participant in our sports world and activities world, which is really a growing thing for our students. And there's a picture in there, but My favorite part of the event is when they do the T-shirt exchange and all the students get up and they're swapping T-shirts from their schools with other students, and then they're trying to upgrade their shirts, and it's really just collaboration amongst different individuals and getting them out of their comfort zone a little bit. But we're really pleased to have that partnership with the Minnesota State High School League. We've both been in connection with the league office in different variations of our roles and feel the support around us from that high school league and feel our students are the same way. So that's just kind of the update from the high school league. But again, that's what we're asking for your approval tonight, so.
And then from the state down to our 742 activities purpose. So you can see that our purpose is to create a culture where, students embrace that growth mindset and it empowers them to explore their passions. And we feel really excited tonight to show you about all the different ways and options that we have for our students. Gosh, it's really touchy today. And then we had a group of students and activity staff that worked on our belief statements. So we believe that sportsmanship builds character, teaching values, respect, discipline, inclusion, and accountability. We believe that work ethic is the combination of that growth mindset and commitment, and that attitudes can be learned and cultivated, and the positive attitude that one can bring for positive outcomes for all. And then the one that really resonates is the idea we learn together, we grow together, and we succeed together.
All right, and then I'll move into the updates and celebrations from our past year here. We're very excited about our current year, and a lot of things that we continue to do for our students and families is provide those free admissions to all of our venues. There was a couple rental facilities that we had to kind of negotiate through those things, and that has been established. So no matter where our teams are playing, when we're the host school, their students are in for free. And then again, the addition of those parent passes to all of our student home games. And then another one we're continuing to grow on is that full online registration piece. We worked with our technology department here to continue to ease that navigation through those sites and eliminate some of those data processing barriers. So it should be a little bit easier and more streamlined for our students to continue to register online, where we're able to track the data more efficiently. Then the continuation of the removal of barriers, accessible physicals, again, with our partnership in LEAF and some other local health providers. A while back, CVS, was our main partner with LEAF, had kind of stopped or ended that, and LEAF has helped us kind of reestablish those connections with local partners, and we're able to say that we're supporting these students and have some on-site physicals set up here for fall at both of our high schools for kids that can't transport and all those things. So we're really excited about that. Continue to provide those culturally appropriate clothing and accessories for all students. The junior high activity bus, the return home after practices, has been a huge success in a very efficient way to keep students active and involved. And then a new one again this year, which we are super, super, super excited about, is that LEAF has agreed to sponsor basically and provide free middle level activities for all students in that middle level, including those participating on high school sports. So all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students will have the opportunity to participate in activities at no cost, thanks to those major contributions by our LEAF Foundation. So continuing on with the commitment to safety, I know sportsmanship is a huge discussion and is always at the forefront of all of our meetings when we're meeting with our conference stakeholders and our section stakeholders about how do we continue to uphold these expectations. We do have monthly discussions at our meeting. We just collaborated on how do we continue to make unified commitment to communication with our families. So no matter what venue you're going in with our conference, you're hearing the same thing, you're being told the same thing, you're asked the same thing. And so we're continuing to work with those teams. As I mentioned before, the SALT and the Minnesota State High School League initiatives with our students and collaborating with more of the outer schools than just our conference. We're able to meet with some other schools outstate and down in the metro as well. And again, that fan behavior and expectations for all event and home games, is what we're always trying to focus, and to change from our coaching hat to our administrative hat, it's not always about the wins and losses, but if we had a successful event, and that involves truly to behavior, and we feel like we're in a good position with those streamlined initiatives with our groups to make it happen. And then continuing the professional development, as we know in the classroom, our activities are extension of that, and our coaches need to be coached. And our advisors need to have the ability to grow, whether that's in communication skills, whether that's in, how do you work through, social media? How do you work through discipline, playing time, anything? And that's where we partner with Positive Coaching Alliance to continue to bring those initiatives to our coaches. And then continue our commitment to collaboration. We're always excited that we try to hear our students, and their voices are a big part of our activities programs, and we want to feel that they're involved in our decisions. And so this last year we had some new initiatives. We've started some esports, boys volleyball, girls flag football, and then we've tried to extend that strength and conditioning program to meet some of our summer off-season training needs. Because we have a demand for it, and so we know we got to work to continue to grow these areas and be able to provide them for our students.
One quick anecdote on the strength and conditioning is we were able to add a certified strength and conditioning coach at Tech this summer, and our head coach, who normally is running it all summer, reported to me that he took a week off for the first time in years, and just did not come into school and really got a break. And it just made my heart so happy that the commitment will help him refresh and will just be a better environment for our kids when we support our coaches like that. So it was a big win.
All right, and then I asked Hillary if she wanted to present on this whole thing, but she wasn't here, so I'm going to keep talking. The data, all of you have been given the data ahead of time, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but just want to highlight a few things. These are our main high school participation numbers, and every spring we submit our participation numbers to the high school league every year. And so the number up top that you'll see by the high school, it represents our MSHSL enrollment number. So the high school league takes our overall population, and then they subtract 40% of the students that receive educational benefits, and then they give you a high school league competitive number. So then that allows you to play at a more liked represented grouping as far as section and those different competitive levels. So when you look at Apollo and Tech, our numbers, our enrollment numbers in our buildings are higher than that. But when we look at what the Minnesota State High School League deems as your participation number, they're a little bit lower than our represented. So you'll see those are our 12th through 7th grade numbers of students who participated in a high school league sanctioned activity. So there's 7th and 8th graders. That would be more like swimming, swim and dive, both boys and girls, tennis, and those kind of sports that incorporate those 7th and 8th graders. So those numbers are not reflective of our junior high numbers, but of those that participate on the high school teams.
And then just to note that those are unduplicated numbers. So if a student participates in more than one state high school league opportunity, they're only represented once on this table.
And this is a quick snapshot of our fall sports, and I just wanted to note out there, I know it's noted at the bottom, but the single asterisks are a Tech Apollo co-op. So those are going to be combined. The double asterisk includes Tech Apollo, but also another affiliated school. So most often Cathedral, sometimes Sartell and Sauk Rapids. For instance, adapted soccer, that's Tech Apollo, Sartell, Sauk Rapids. Our girls tennis, or our girls swim, Tech stands alone. Apollo is with St. John's Prep and Cathedral. So it's not just, when you look at, those numbers are maybe a little bit lower than expected, that's because those are only the District 742 students participating and not those members of our co-op. And looking at high school sports, same thing. The asterisks denote the co-ops, consistent numbers. From years past to what we're looking at here today. And same with spring, boys and girls track is kind of the standalone. And then the boys volleyball has the tech, and we're looking to increase that population over at Apollo and be able to offer that this spring. This gets to our fine arts or music, speech, robotics, and clay target. We've had extreme growth, as you've known in the past with robotics. Is maintaining. And again, we run a lot of those robotics programs as kind of a north side, south side. So these numbers just represent our high school students, not all of the members participating on north side robotics or Tiger robotics. And then our clay target has seen significant growth. And we'll continue that growth over the last couple of years and have some successful younger kids coming through. So I think it will continue to move in a positive direction.
I'm going to jump in with activities and clubs. This represents the high school, so just Apollo and Tech. Note that we do also offer many of these options in our middle school as well. And these numbers, in contrast to the ones earlier, these are duplicated numbers. So if a student is in art club and French club, they're represented twice on here. Some of the ones that we're really excited about is the increase in the gardening club. They're doing some really great work. Shout out to their advisors for all the hard work they've done this summer and are, really getting the kids dirty and in the dirt and doing a really great job on that summer gardening. The other one that is really growing, we're very excited about, is the Crush Interact group. This is one of them that we're combined for the first time, and the students are really excelling, getting out in the community and becoming part of, a community that gives back to the larger, broader St. Cloud community. So we're very excited about the work that those students are doing too.
Yeah, if you've been down to Summertime by George, they're the ones that are running around in the blue shirts and helping sell the tickets and getting up on stage. Often are our students that are presenting those things. So it's really, really cool, and a lot of them won awards from their contributions last year. And prelude to our celebrations, the morning show, they come as we get them, right? So we had 5 students from the Tech Morning Show receive national awards this year, which was really a really cool thing. And that HOSA club sent a bunch of students to nationals. So although these are not high school league sanctions activities, there's opportunity for students to be recognized at a state and national level. And we got a lot of great students represent us in various clubs.
And then again, just some for your reference, so you can see the number of students participating in middle school sports. We're very proud of the work that our middle school coordinators are doing to get students out and participate. And so you can see some of the successes that we've had here. Again, boys soccer, girls volleyball are 2 that have really shown increases over the last few years. Winter boys and girls basketball is still very popular. And then in the spring, you can see definitely our track numbers are going strong.
Yeah, and to just highlight a couple along the way that we did, but DECA has continued to grow on both sides of town, and our kids have traveled. We had a national kid make the trip down to Florida this year to represent us and win a couple awards down there at the national level, which was awesome to be able to celebrate. Our speech teams continue to have success in a state champ over at Tech. And then our girls volleyball numbers have continued to grow to continue to add levels, which is a great thing. Gaming and esports into that activities, we've established that esports program where our kids are competing online against kids all over the country. They log in at 4 o'clock and they play different games, and it's competitive. And I got the opportunity to go and sit in and watch some of them, and as we go back to the interest level and listening to our students, when you sit in that setting and you're involved in it, they're really engaged. And we're finding that people are getting full scholarships to colleges for this, gaming and creative gaming stuff. So it's awesome to be able to provide those opportunities. And then our student groups, in partnership with our schools and our counselors, our boys groups and girls groups, our project with Boys and Girls Club, and those things are growing. And what we've found is that it's creating that support not only meeting during the day, but a lot of it is coming back in our activities world, where those mentors are showing up and supporting, and those kids are making that second connection, which is a really cool thing to be able to bring it full circle and get their involvement.
I'll give a shout out on that one to our Girls Taking Action and Boys of Hope is a community partner that has really helped us with that student group and is doing a lot of really good, again, volunteering work and support of our kids during the day and after school.
And I'll continue with that recruiting and participation as we want to continue to grow those things. We've continued with our middle level activity day. We enjoyed it. It's a great day for us to get our student athletes in front of our middle level kids. And we get our coaches there and our students there, and they play games with them a little bit. They inform them. They offer, here's what we're doing this summer. Here's how you get involved. It's a really nice way to get face-to-face with a lot of students in that recruiting process. And our older kids have a lot of fun with it too. And oftentimes they'll sneak back to a classroom of their middle school teacher and say hi, and they love the opportunity. Our youth programming opportunities, we're really making an initiative to reach out to our youth programs and establish some of those connections with our community, building foundations with youth sports and youth activities to try to make those partnerships to continue to get those kids in our building, expose them to our activities and sports, and really kind of offer and solidify that connection, because we know that those people are the ones that are going to continue to feed our programs. And then elementary and middle level school connections. We've tried to partner with different classrooms. We've read in classrooms. We've sent a group over to Westwood every other Friday to just hang out at lunch and wear your Eagle gear. We sent the mascot over there, a mascot costume over there, and the kids loved it. But it was just an opportunity for our students to engage with other students and, hey, yeah, I go to Apollo, here's what I do, and really establish those connections. We've tried to partner with our Phi-Ed teachers on both sides of town when they start a unit. For example, in the top right is a tennis unit. Mr. Morrell over at Westwood asked, hey, can I bring a couple tennis kids over to introduce the tennis unit? And the kids ate it up, loved it. Our high school kids loved it. And we saw an increase in the summer participation in tennis programming, mainly because of that connection, where we had to get some of those high school kids to come back to the summer camp because those kids were like, they're going to be there, right? And so it was really cool, and we feel like we can expand on that and make those connections in all of our sports and really continue to draw that pipeline. And then lastly, the homecoming day activities. Last year at Apollo, Justin and I went through kind of the initiative of starting this homecoming day and showing kids, here's a high school league sport. Here's what it's like to be involved in it. Here's the fun that you can do. And I know we've presented on that in the past, but it was really a great day, and we got kids exposed to high school activities in a short amount of time. And this year we're looking to expand it and add 3 more high school league activities at 3:30. So if they want to stick around after school, they can continue to watch. So we'll have boys soccer, girls swimming, and volleyball at 1, and then we'll have girls soccer, girls tennis, and we're hoping to slide adapted soccer in there right at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then we'll have a varsity football at 7, and then our homecoming dance after that. So it's going to be a busy day, but it's exciting to keep the opportunities there for students where they don't have to feel like they got to go and then come back, and it just gave them an opportunity to see what it was like.
And at Tech this year, we're planning on an activity event between school and the football game. So again, that our students don't have to leave and come back, but that we'll have programming working with the Tech Alumni Association and our student council are all working together to provide events for our kids before the game so they can stay.
Yeah, then continuing on to community connections. Again, we're all in it together, and we know that our community we need to support our community who supports us. So just some things and highlights where we've been out in the community recently with community education, the One District, One Book and Shields, and we have that partnership. Our students go and hang out there and have a great day. Our Crush Interact Club, as we noted before, spends a lot of time down at Summertime by George, but is very involved in the Rotary Club and learning the future Rotarian way, and is mingling in with our community in various ways. And then our volunteering work, all of our teams a lot of our teams take initiative in volunteering in some form or fashion with a group, whether it's going and reading in classrooms or whether it's going and bringing in toys for Toys or Tots, helping out at the Cop House, Salvation Army. We have a group going to fill back to school backpacks tomorrow. There's another group going and bagging groceries. So we're trying to be active in the community and knowing that it's also a servant role as well, and what we give, we get back. So we're very active in the community, and we like to be present and know that it helps us when we're going around. So.
All right, there's going to be a lot of these.
Yeah, just looking at state and national qualifiers, just to highlight a few, and then the next slide kind of gives some pictures to it. But we had, like I mentioned, we had a state champion in speech over at Tech, and that was great. A great finish to a senior year. We have swimming participants in the state tournament. We had a state champion at Tech and Apollo this year in boys swimming, which was a really cool thing to be able to celebrate. Our adapted sports continue to have the success that it's had in the past, and actually didn't make it to the floor hockey state tournament, which was the first time in several years. I had to go back and count all the trophies on Coach Bakken's desk to see when the last time we didn't make it, but they made it back again in the spring in softball. But we did have the CI, or Cognitive Impairment Adapted Player of the Year, and so it's a huge recognition when you and it's not per sport, so it's all of the adapted cognitive CIs that are eligible for this. They have to participate on multiple teams, and so we had a representative from Apollo that won that award this year, so it was a cool thing to celebrate. Tech girls soccer team made it to state for the first time, multiple conference titles and state participants, DECA national qualifier, and again, our robotics teams continue to make it to those VEX state nationals and even worlds. So we're excited about that continued success, and these are just some pictures. We had a hard time trying to crop them to fit them all, but we had a lot of participants in the state tournament, and every time that we have a state participant, we do a send-off. So if you've been to Apollo or Tech, we do it very similar, but we get the marching band involved, and we try to send them out and cheer them up to go do well at state and just have fun competing. The whole school steps out in the hall to support it, and so it's a really, really neat send-off for our students.
Now I get to take a little bit of the looking ahead. So I first want to just thank Carl. I mean, I think our partnership of the two of us over the last month and a half, I'm really excited about the work that we're going to be able to do together, and how well it has gone so far. So thank you, Carl, for all your help. And looking forward, so some of the things that we have been planning and collaborating on is really thinking about how we strengthen our community connections with our youth programs. So how are we getting involved, making sure that they know who we are, making sure that we understand each other's mission, and that we understand each other's barriers and figure out how we can help each other to continue our goal of growing participation. Continued responsiveness to programming efforts and future innovation. So I really think about listening to our students. Some of the things that already have come up, working on an environmental club at Tech, working on increased participation in I had a group of students already this spring come to me and really want to talk about marching band. So we're going to think about ways to support marching within our pep band and see if we can kind of grow some interest. Shout out to Coach Jess for all of her work and being willing to listen to kids and give it a try. We are very excited to be able to add a middle-level co-ed swim program this spring in order to increase opportunities for our students to get in the pool and have access to high-quality coaching so that they can be set up to be participants at the high school level. And then again, one of the other things that we've been able to collaborate on is, the gift that we are being given for our new facility at Apollo. We're very excited to collaborate on that together. And then updating always the equipment that we need and making sure that our students are safe and have what they need to be compete at the highest level. We also, this summer, Carl even, we want to make sure that the community and the state can see what amazing facilities we have. So we continue to work with the State High School League to host other section games. And even this summer, Carl worked with the Vikings on hosting a camp here. Again, one of our goals together is to really think about how we collaborate within the conference. We already have days where the students get together as conference leaders, and the two of us have been talking about how that's not a one-time event for our kids, but how do we continue to take those themes and grow leaders in our building? And then again, that enhanced professional development with our coaches. So the two of us already talking about how do we onboard, how are we supporting new coaches, how are we listening to our veteran coaches, and then being able to collaborate and get them the support that they need. Okay, that was a lot. Thank you very much for listening, and we are happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions for the presenters? Scott Andresen.
A couple of years ago, there was fan behavior at some of the schools that was pretty negative for some of our students. And I know there's been some work on that. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we've kind of established expectations at a bigger level with our conference, and we've kind of unified that. So now people coming into our setting, our buildings and our fields and our facilities, they understand, yep, I already know those expectations because it's what I have at my school. But we do a pretty good job collaborating with our building administration to make sure we have enough supervision, to make sure we have our facilities, in a good spot where we can handle any things that come up throughout the course of an event. We had some really good success this last year and felt like our events run smoothly. We have a few things that pop up from time to time, but we are prepared with our building administrators to meet those needs of those students.
Actually kick people out?
We try not to, right? We try not to, but if the situation deems it, we'll remove from the event, yeah.
Okay. This clay target shooting, that sounds really interesting. What is the liability situation on that?
So it's with an independent. So when we provide those students the opportunity, they're shooting with the independent grouping. So we have basically are the host. We support the students, but all the other things, the ammos, the guns, that's all personally owned or supported by their groups. I don't know if I've answered.
Okay, so we're kind of avoiding liability the best we can.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Hello. It's been a while since we've talked about this, but I believe that our independent groups are required to carry liability insurance. And so that's how we cover the liability. The group takes on that responsibility and they're required to provide proof of insurance.
Is the hold harmless then?
Yes.
And our coaches and the range support do a very good job on gun safety and gun training. And they kind of joke about it, but they're really serious. If you mishandle, you get this wood stick to hold on to until you can show that you can appropriately handle a gun. So they take it very seriously, but it is a very fast-growing sport. And we're very excited to be able to provide that opportunity because there's a big interest with our students.
Okay. You mentioned competitive numbers on some of this stuff at 40%. Could you explain that a little more?
So the enrollment, the Minnesota State High School League takes our general enrollment from our schools. And then they take what we provide for them as the students that are on educational benefits. They take 40% of that number and they reduce our population to a more competitive number for us. So our approximately 1,300 students reduces to 956, I think is what it was, based on that 40% students receiving. The reported number of educational benefits students, 40% subtracted from our total number gets us to our MSHSL participation number.
And then, sorry, not to interrupt, but then what that does is that puts us in a competitive section. So regardless of demographics, we're competing against other schools with like numbers of students likely to participate.
I was wondering the purpose of that.
Yeah, so it puts us in a section, so we're not competing in a section with Wayzata that has 2,500 kids. We're competing against other schools with like numbers, so our students have a fair chance at play.
Okay. A while ago, there was an activity done involving NASA, the National Aeronautics Space Administration, and it was called Apollo at Apollo, where we actually brought in astronauts and had a big gathering. It was sanctioned by NASA. Has there been any thought of maybe doing something like that again?
I mean, that'd be a great idea. I mean, I'll bring it to our building administration. We do a pretty good job of trying to find ways throughout the school year to bring our community members and some of those things back in front of our students. So I can bring that back to our team.
I know it went very well. In fact, half the board didn't show up because they were over there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the presenters? Heather Weems?
Can you talk a little bit, I know nationally participation rates are falling really in most districts for a number of reasons, including we're seeing fewer students who are duplicative. They play only one sport. But even so, and particularly as you look at belonging and engagement and different thoughts about cell phones and that sort of thing, we know that that also has an impact. What do we know about our numbers? When I look at the just raw numbers, I think they're problematic. I think that engagement in outside extracurricular events or activities, co-curricular events are critically important. I understand and appreciate that MSHSL gives you a 40% reduction. That's still, that kid though that is more unlikely to participate is still a kid who would benefit from participating. So from a competitive perspective, it's helpful. From an overall perspective, it means that even fewer of our students are participating. So what do we know about the reason for not engaging? And then I'm happy to see the work that you're focusing on with student or with coach mentoring and advising and expectations and those sorts of things. How do you involve coaches in expanding, and what is the general message and promotion around the importance of engagement, really beginning in middle level and all the way up?
Yeah, I mean, we understand that it starts at the bottom and it continues to grow, and that's where, we've both kind of set with that initiative of we need to increase our exposure of these events and draw the population, right? And so there's different things that we know are barriers, and transportation being one, our socioeconomic status, culturally appropriate clothing, and we feel like we have great partners in addressing those. But it's continuing to communicate to our community that those are the barriers, and we're here to help by doing this for you. And so we need to continue to get in front of our stakeholders as far as our youth programs and creating that partnership with our district and our youth programs and getting them in our buildings and facilities, but also connecting with our coaches and the youth programming, our coaches at the high school level with our middle level coaches. And it needs to be a full stream. And so I think just kind of as we continue to move forward and pulling those coaches together, everybody's doing their things and they're doing them well, but we need to just continue to keep aligning them. And this is working well here, maybe we can try it over here. And just sometimes you don't realize it until somebody else says it and you're like, oh yeah, I'd do that too. And so creating those collaborative conversations, but the exposure and the communication to our families, I believe are kind of our big barriers that we need to address this year as far as making those connections and communicating yes, we have culturally appropriate clothing. Here's what it looks like. Here's what your playing venue's like. Here's your staff, so that people understand and are more comfortable joining something like that. And so that's a big thing for us around those things.
I will just add, I think one of the things that's exciting for me is I'm learning about, the barriers that we've talked about, but I'm sure there's others as we go into the communities and start working with our youth programs that we'll learn about. But one of the things we've recently hired a new soccer coach at Tech. We're very excited that he's an alumni and wants to come back and be part of the program. And he was able to take his state high school league coaching class last week. So a real shout out to what a good job the state high school league did. And he came back saying, wow, that first slide about why we play made such an impact on me, and we need to go spread this word to the community. So we're going to have a parent meeting tomorrow night and take the MSHSL work that he did back and make sure that the community understands, like, these are the goals of the State High School League. These are the reasons why our kids participate. It's not all about winning. It's about leadership. It is about having fun. It's about growing academically. And then also being able to reduce some of those barriers. I'm going to bring a computer and help register kids, right? We're going to get names and addresses and make sure that people can carpool and get rides. So I think just the more we get into the community, we'll find some of those pieces. And I think the more we continue to hire coaches that have real community connections like that, that we'll find out things that we didn't know before.
I think the only thing that I would add, because I think you hit it, nationally you've seen a decrease in participation. And our youth and students, it's a whole onion to peel back from that, because their choice and selection of interests are what they like, right? I think Carl hit it. The sooner you help find interest in something you like, you get them in and you give them exposure. But what we've heard, once I get there, I might not feel connected or a sense of belonging. Or I might have that, and at home, my family says, you got something else to do. Or I'm not gonna carpool you to do X, Y, and Z because of these things. And so when we really look at it, it's a huge dynamic when we start to talk about participation, but especially a diverse population that we service, right? We could do all the things, and then it could fall on home like, you're not doing this, or you might not get positive reinforcement. And so some of the things that we look at, but I think we're on to the starting early, giving interest, and then when we see it, you got a whole nother competitive lens where I've been playing competitively since 5. Well, do I want to explore with my middle school friends that are starting at basics, right? And so when we look at it, we hear all these things from families, but I think our focus continues to be exposure and experiences early, and then all the supports and removing other barriers. But Heather, like, that's a complex thing when we talk to our folks specifically of why kids aren't getting involved. I just think it's a big, how we peel it back to get to the root of it. It's a huge uphill battle for us, but I think given exposure and experiences.
One additional question, and you have done a really good job of not talking about competitiveness. What are your expectations around competitiveness? Because I understand that's not the primary purpose. I would be lying if I didn't say that I don't think that there is pride and there is community engagement and there is reputation that is gained from that. So as you look and have conversations across coaches and across students, how do you look at competitive success as part of the formula?
Yeah, I mean, competitiveness drives numbers too, I feel like, and creating competitive opportunities doesn't necessarily mean winning, right? And so we can create those competitive opportunities, and we can help with building some of those schedules and trying to find competitive games for our teams to play in. But our coaches reestablishing that culture, making practices competitive and fun, instilling that in the game, being competitive and fun. And you're right, to say we're going to show up and it's okay, we're losing. No one likes doing that, but competitiveness doesn't always mean wins, and it's kind of teaching that and reinforcing that, because when you don't have success, it's not fun, and people tended to leave, right? And they tend to not be involved. And so finding ways to increase that competitiveness, not only in practices, but then on the playing field, is something that, we're looking at when we're creating our schedules, our participation schedules for our sports, but also then when we're working with our coaches on practice planning and, what are you doing outside of the, off the court or off the field that's creating these opportunities for students. And we both feel that stems down into our junior highs. And, our junior highs are a time for students to learn and to try something, but it's also needs to be somewhat competitive for some of our higher level students. So there's kind of that happy medium, and that's where we're trying to figure out the best way to balance both, right, with the participation. But competitiveness definitely is a need, and I do think it helps drive those numbers as well.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the things that I think our renewed commitment to strength and conditioning, I think, is really a way that we are trying to grow that competitiveness, right? What I have seen this summer of middle schoolers in the weight room just being athletic, right? That is going to translate, one, injury prevention, and if our students are healthy, they're going to stay on the field and do better. And they are going to be able to participate as an athlete in multiple sports just by the work that they've been putting in the weight room this summer. So I want to add that to the piece, that I think the more we can invest in the training, the more that we can invest in those high quality opportunities with certified strength and conditioning coaches, I think will serve us well as the kids progress through our program.
And Al, did you have a question?
I was just gonna, Heather brought up the 40% reduction, and that number kind of popped out at me too. I look at it maybe a little differently than some others, but I've always looked at our participation numbers in the district somewhat from a budget standpoint. And I know that it's not uncommon in school districts that have high levels of poverty and high levels of diversity to have poor levels of participation. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, the feeder program coming up, families just don't have the money. Families, they may not have the parents don't have the ability to shuttle their kids around there's a whole lot of stuff that happens before high school and junior high in getting kids involved in athletics. And so that whole feeder program suffers in areas such as ours, or Minneapolis or St. Paul, or just you look at the cities that struggle with participation numbers. And then when they do get to high school, instead of looking at it and saying, okay, well, if we would invest into creating facilities and processes for increasing participation in athletics and activities, such that providing things such as busing to and from after-school activities, equipment, coaching, there's a whole network of resources that's needed, but we are the number one most underfunded school district in the state of Minnesota, and that's not talking about activities. That's talking about we're the number one underfunded school district in the state of Minnesota. So where are we going to pull money to do those types of things? And so instead of giving us money and saying, hey, you guys need to, we can help you develop a really strong athletic program or a really strong activities program in your school district, the state throws up their arms and says, yeah, 40% less, we'll consider that pretty good. So you can have 40% less kids and we'll just bring you down and you can play in a less competitive league. So to me, it really all comes around to a funding number, and I've brought it up other years. I'm not going to go through them again this year, but if we were able to fund athletics at the same per student dollar amount as Xavier Corey, you would have several $1 million extra in your budget to work with. And that's real money, and that's the money where you are able to do those things. And the kids at Ricori that are getting those high numbers, by and large, their parents can afford to shuttle them. Their parents, they aren't in situations where they can't physically do it, where we have just the opposite situation here. So I think that's really a big part of what's happening, and I think you guys do a fantastic job with the resources that you do have, and we should be proud of that. One of the things I noticed when I was looking at the numbers too is there's a 25% plus drop off from 11th to 12th grade in participation numbers. What's going on with that? Why do we see such big numbers of drop off?
Yeah, I mean, as students go throughout their high school careers and their educational years, things change. Some kids feel their role has maybe changed as part of a program. Some feel that, I could put time in here and show up 5-6 days a week for a couple hours a day and put effort in there, or I could go work a job and make some money and prepare myself to go on to college and be ready financially in that aspect. And so there's a lot of variables to that, and kind of finding your way through that program and kind of finding your role. And I mean, we want to create those competitive teams, but we also want to include, it's about inclusion and environment as well. But that's kind of what we're finding is that when students kind of get to that junior year, they get through that junior year, if they're kind of, well, my role is, decreased, or I maybe not where I want to be, they've found other opportunities. And some have switched sports. Some have, like I said, decided to go play a job or be involved in a different activity that's not as demanding on their time. They also, over time, increase their education. Some are taking more advanced classes that the nighttime doesn't necessarily allow for me to do that extra studying for my AP or my post-secondary courses. So there's a lot of variables to that, and usually it's fairly common to see larger participation at a beginner level, and then as you kind of move up that pyramid, the participation numbers drops off from year to year, typically. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It was one that the two of us were talking about earlier today too, and I think for me it warrants more questions and something that I hope to learn a lot about this year, because it was a question I had as well.
Okay. I think the last thing I'm going to bring up, and I could have either done it here or in the committee minutes part of it, but one of the things that we talked about at the legislative committee was doing some type of a resolution for the School Boards Association to bring forward. Last year, there was one that was brought forward by a school, I forget which school district now, and I just looked. Doesn't matter. It had to do with the Minnesota School Boards Association and transparency and producing agendas, producing minutes, and it was asking that the Minnesota School Boards Association live stream their board meetings so that school districts could be more informed of what's going on with the Minnesota State High School League. And it was actually voted down by the members of the School Boards Association, and it was to me it was really kind of odd. The School Boards Association was very much against forcing them to live stream, and it was for them to bring to the legislature or ask the legislature to produce legislation that would require them to live stream. And their reasoning is kind of odd. It's that, the Minnesota State High School League is a private organization. They're a nonprofit. They're still held accountable to the standards of producing agendas and minutes. But to require them to live stream, we're afraid that that might carry out into other organizations. And we don't want to have the legislature pushing things like that. And there's school districts that don't even do that yet, so they kind of went on. And I mean, to me, that's a safety. The School Boards Association was saying, hey, we're a private organization and we don't want to have to live stream our meetings. So anyway, it failed. But there is a lack of communication between the Minnesota State High School League and what they're doing and the schools. And if you look on their website right now, their last agenda that was published was for their April 3rd meeting. They've had a few meetings since, so they aren't really publishing agendas. And the last minutes that they have on there are from February 5th. So they aren't really following what we would say are open meetings laws type standards moving forward. And I'm kind of curious and if you guys would have any ideas for us on how we could get them to be a little bit more proactive in getting that information out there, because it would be really nice to know what the Minnesota State High School League is doing, since we all are members in a monopoly that we're here to vote on whether we want to participate in or not, but I don't know what the other option is, so we'll probably vote to participate.
Yeah, no, very, very good question. And the high school league is always willing to listen, and we feel like our connections with the high school league have been very supportive. And that when we call or we ask questions, they answer and they communicate with us very well. We do get updates regularly from the high school league as far as here's kind of what's in the know, what's going on, what's coming up. We get those communicated to us regularly as ADs. But as far as posting minutes online and that kind of stuff, like I said, we can inform them and ask for a better representation. Otherwise, we do receive more meeting update notes, maybe not the agenda, but what was discussed, what was voted on, what's coming up. We get those updates regularly from the high school league, and then we're involved in monthly, they call them lead meetings. And so we have a region lead that kind of brings the information from those meetings to us for discussion, brings information back. So we feel like our communication with the high school league is very, very open, and the communication is very good with informing and then moving to improve or vote on things. But I guess I haven't looked at their posted minutes because we discuss those a little bit more regularly.
I wonder if Eric would be open to, if he's sending them out to athletic directors, I wonder if he would be open to sending them to board members also. And it wouldn't have to be all, I mean, it could be on a request basis or something like that.
Right.
And maybe I could contact Eric and see. I mean, he's been receptive. I give Eric credit. He's been receptive in the past to the things that this board has done. We haven't been the friendliest to the Minnesota State High School League, but I do feel like what we did needed to be done, and I feel like there was an end result that was very positive for very positive for the State High School League, to be honest with you. So, but I think that there is a need for better communication between the State High School League and us. And I was going to bring that, and the reason I would have brought it up in the other part is we were going to include that as a resolution to bring to this Minnesota School Boards Association, but it's already really there, and I don't know that, if they're already required to produce minutes and produce agendas, I don't think that it's really makes sense to bring a resolution to the School Boards Association asking them to do what they already are required to do.
Okay.
But the follow-through isn't there, so, okay, thank you.
And Dr. Putnam, Heather Weems, and Scott Andresen. Okay.
You talk about declining participation rates. I think there's probably a correlation between playing time and participation. As the better kids get more and more playing time, the less better kids get less playing time, and pretty soon they just throw their hands up and walk away. Is there something that can be done?
I mean, that's a great question. Playtime is a very up and down, touchy kind of subject when you dive into it, and it's different per sport because some sports can offer more playing time because we're putting 11 kids out on a football field versus 5 kids on a basketball court. We're running 4 lines or 3 lines in hockey, and they're all so But it goes back to the competitiveness question as well, and the time that our students are putting in to move, because there is that opportunity post high school, and some kids are driven to that, some kids are driven to being participants with their friends, and there's different variables that the give and take of that. I think our coaches are very good at communicating with our student athletes, and here's the expectations with the reality, and being very forefront in that, knowing things change through a season. But everything is addressed a little bit more of an individual standpoint as far as playing time.
Heather, okay. Any other questions? Dr. Putnam?
Thank you. I just want to say that this is, I think, one of the best, if not the best, let's go with the best, activities presentation that I have seen in a very long time. I've been coming to these meetings for 7, 8 years now, and to Dr. Harris and Hillary and Carl, the clarity of the vision, right, that you showed us through not only the data, but the ways that you are out and engaging, I think is something we haven't seen in a while. And so to the 3 of you and to our ACs out there, right, I very much appreciate that and know that it is seen, and I heard that recognized here. The level of community engagement is phenomenal. And just anecdotally, when I'm at Apollo, I see Carl everywhere all the time. And I'm like, you have to take some time off, man. And Hillary is new, and I know has been engaging our community before her job even began. The kinds of relationships I think that Hillary has, I know that Hillary has on the South Side, and already engaging with a Tech alum and working with people who want to fundraise, right, has just, I think, really, you are a gift, right, to that community, and the 2 of you are just going to be a powerhouse in it. I can feel, right, I can feel the excitement and the commitment, and solid really comes to mind, right, it feels like you've got a really solid handle on what is happening or where you want to go. So you have my deepest thanks, and Dr. Harris, for your leadership of this domain. Thank you.
Anything else from Dr. Harris on this one? All right. Well, thank you. And it may not feel like it in the middle of a hot, humid, muggy, quiet, lethargic July board meeting, but I'm excited to see. I've seen all just, again, what Dr. Putnam said, seeing you out in the community and doing things, and having been voluntold to be a soccer coach for a few years now, it's just kind of exciting to see a little more in depth what the future that you put on there. It's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, that was it. I think our next item that they have is an action item, which would be approval of boys swim and dive co-op, and Dr. Jason Harris. I think this one's yours too.
Good evening again, Acting Chair Dorholt, Superintendent Putnam, board members. Shout out to these folks. You just heard them talk about all the great things that are happening. But we also know tonight we'll talk about the boys swim and dive co-op. And when co-ops happen, hearts and feelings are in this. You feel like you're losing a piece of yourself when you're losing identity. So our folks went out and talk to stakeholders, get feedback. What do we need to do to grow our numbers? And we're one organization, and sometimes it's hard when you don't have numbers. But I think what we heard today is we're trying to put some things in place to do that. And then I'll let these 2 kind of just talk about next steps around the boys swim and dive co-op.
Yeah, thank you. And the transitions right from one to the next, and talking about some of those participations. We've seen steady competitive programming on both sides of town, and our both coaches on both sides to no less to their work and effort into trying to maintain these programs and numbers and being present at all of our activity days and our recruiting opportunities and in our buildings. And, it just, at some point, the numbers are where they're at. And it is hard because you have two very competitive programs, but the numbers just, they're not quite there to support. And back to the whole scheme of things, when you tear it all down here, the crush cooperatives, when we look to form one of these, we really start by looking at the participation numbers. And then once we hit that participation number, that drives kind of us into the direction. And that's where we start to meet with those stakeholders. We start to meet with our district administration to just kind of work around those numbers. But then we really look at that safety and student participants. And you may ask, well, they're in a pool. They're not going to get, run over when they're tackled. But when you talk about adding those students to a competitive high school program that's producing state champions, when you're a seventh grader just kind of thinking about swimming, it's very hard to jump into those highly competitive varsity activities. And so, as we alluded to in the previous presentation, the implementation of a middle level swim program where we're able to start more of a feeder, hey, come try this out for a couple weeks at a little lesser stress level. But that kind of alludes back to that student safety piece of just the demand of being in the pool 6 days a week for 2 hours and having to really put your body and mind into that perspective. So that student safety piece, and then access to opportunity for our district students. Our two swim programs, Apollo was a standalone. Tech swim program was TCRB, so it included Cathedral, Ricori, and Becker. So when we looked at the cooperatives and our numbers, we looked at our district students. So we tried to take out the Cathedral, Becker, and Ricori when we were looking at our actual district participation. And the last question that we get from a lot of stakeholders was, well, could we find another team to stay and form two cooperatives? When that starts, we start getting a little bit messy and the funding goes a little bit different. So our initiative is to stay within Tech Apollo to start, and then we can branch from there. So when we look at our why, back to our Tech and Apollo, less than 10 participants on either side of town. Then that moves into that general competitiveness, right? And if we have low numbers, are we able to field teams? And you go into a lot of duels, you're traveling, to Fergus Falls, to Brainerd, to, even just Sartell, and it's challenging to compete in any of those duels. And so that mental competitiveness, we're winning some individual heats, but not necessarily those big time duels. And then ultimately the fiscal responsibility, of limited district funds and are we at that point where we're better off funding one? I mean, we do take in some monies from our co-op schools per student, but kind of that fiscal responsibility of running those two separate programs. And then looking at the numbers, looking at Apollo, you have a little bit more spread out through the course of those. Apollo had 8 students, 2 that would graduate. We have a few more swimmers in the pool. We're projecting to be around that 10, 12, possibly 15, but these are the consistent numbers that we've seen from the past years. Tech had 6 students, most of them which are homeschool, but fall and are competitive under the Tech in the Tech school district zone. So they swim for Tech as their home school. But you can just see there the numbers combined would still make a pretty small swim program. And these are numbers without the Becker, Cathedral, and Ricori. So as we come here tonight, our next steps are to seek school board approval for the co-op of the Tech Apollo swim programs to form Crush. We did meet with our conference and our section administrators last week, and we did get approval from both our conference and our section. But it still comes back down to the school board. And then we would submit our approval to the high school league for their approval on our co-op. We have proactively asked Cathedral, Becker, and Ricori if they would still like to remain as part of our co-op under the Crush name. And all 3 schools have agreed that they would like to continue that partnership pending our board approval here tonight. So. And then looking at our programs, Obviously, we're merging two programs, so we would need to fill our head coaching position, and both of our head coaches are very qualified and very much deserving of that position, but we'll go through that full interview process to determine our next head coach, and then work with that coach to fill out the remainder of our staff. Then we bring our competition schedule together, our practice facilities, and kind of balancing the two facilities between Apollo and Tech. And then again, the development of that middle level spring swim program will give us the opportunity to say, hey, like now we can see real feeder numbers. We're not relying on our community ed swim lessons or our community partners that are in the swim development. We're seeing our actual data within our district. So that is a huge commitment to being able to provide that and really get those students involved at an early age at a less competitive advantage. And then increase exposure. We're looking to add two live cams within each pool at Tech and Apollo to be able to live stream events in those pools to continue to increase that exposure. So I guess that's kind of our information.
Al and Scott.
You said Becker and Ricori, right?
Yes. Yep.
What kind of numbers do they have? I'm surprised. In a way, I'm kind of surprised to hear that Becker would have. They must have low numbers too.
Yeah, I believe they sent 3 students to us last
Do those schools have pools?
Yeah, very
Yes.
nice.
Well, both of them have pools. Do the junior highs have pools?
I'm not sure on the junior highs.
How critical do you think it is for a junior high to have a pool, to have a really strong swimming and diving program?
I mean, I think from working with, in my learning and working with our current coaches, I think it is really important, and having access to a pool community. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be at a junior high, but having access to pools in your community, I think is really important.
Yeah, and I think St. Cloud and it isn't just pools, it's water. There's very few lakes. There's the quarries, I guess, around here, but there's not a whole lot of lakes, and there's not a whole lot of pools, and there just hasn't been the commitment from the community as a whole in this area. But I was just curious on that, because I remember, it's been a long time, I'll tell you that, but when I was back in junior high, we had a pool, and swimming was one of the classes that we took as part of Phi Ed. And so everyone was exposed to swimming, and the Malmesbury School District always had a really strong swimming and diving program. But I'm not suggesting that we'd build pools at this point.
I will say, I know we have, in partnership with Teaching and Learning, have a partnership with fourth graders that every fourth grader goes over to the YMCA and is able to get in their pool. Second grade, sorry, thank you, Nikki. And so we are trying with some of our younger students, one, because we think it's, an important part of their growth and safety, and other, it's a nice way to get them exposed to the sport.
Scott.
I think that the availability of facilities is a major problem. I know when we started remodeling at Apollo, pool was all of a sudden shut down at the last notice. Now that we're getting into remodeling Apollo big time, it may be shut down again from a year, maybe more. I can see where we're going to need the crush. But someday we're going to have a great pool up at Apollo. Is there a system for undoing a crush?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. We have an idea of what it looks like and what we need to do to get to that. But when you're looking at peeling back from the crush back to the respective schools, we need to just make sure that we have competitive numbers at both of those schools, if you would separate. And when you look at the data, Tech has more students, but the numbers in our crush cooperative lean a little bit more to Tech, where if you were to split them, they still couldn't stand alone separately. But we do have the opportunity, and we've said that with our stakeholders, that if it gets to the point where we feel we can support 2 standalone teams in their respective schools, that we would do the process just like we're doing here and dissolve those co-ops.
We're talking at least a couple of years down the road before Powell gets super.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a crush undone. I was just wondering,
Right.
is there actually going to be a process?
Well, and that's where, we do have that, but a sport like swimming holds a little bit different because it has an individual aspect to it. So, for instance, our small team, we had all but 2 kids participate in the state tournament last year. And so that individual piece gives you a little bit more flexibility when you talk about what are the numbers you need, right? I don't need a full 50-person program, but I need enough students to be able to competitively field the team and give those opportunities both safely and physically. So,
Heather and
Couple of questions. When you talk about getting it scheduled, like how are you looking at, are you going to switch like every week you're at one facility and the other? Is it on a monthly,
Yeah.
like how, and part of that is about belonging too.
Right.
So that Apollo and Tech students both feel like they still have meaning in the program.
yeah, and that's a great question, and it's always brought up, and we try to do our best to try to develop some of those consistencies for our students, one for transportation's sake, and two for just like, as I'm running my kids all over town this summer to, wait, am I supposed to go here? Am I supposed to go there? So just adding some of that consistency for our families too. We try to break the schedule as best that we can. So for instance, girls basketball, we start at Apollo they go for 2 weeks and 3 weeks in November and then December. And then over that break in January, then they go to Tech and they are permanently at home at Tech for January, February. And so we try to base it on participation from each school and try to make it as even or fair as possible. But it also has to work in our schedule and all of the other events that are going on. So there's a few scheduling pieces that we kind of have to work out, but generally we keep them at one school for a duration and then find a good transition time to move them to the other school and try to balance those schedules.
You mentioned something that I think is important for us to think about or just be aware of, particularly now with there's much more required in the summer, and I think that becomes a facility piece as well. And, if you think about whether it's middle or high school level kids, if the facility is close enough that they can walk to, bike to, that changes their ability to be engaged. And when you think about the disparate locations of our 2 schools, if you've got a kid on the north side who's in 8th grade and really loves swimming, but doesn't have the opportunity in the summer to get to Tech very easily, I mean, anything that you can think about that helps with that. I think, Hillary, you mentioned earlier, trying to work with the coaches about who can ride share and how do you have that conversation. And then one additional thing I was going to say, and I don't know what you do around this, but again, an opportunity for the 2 of you to partner. When you do go to Crush programs, what sort of team building do you think about? Do you talk with the coaches about? Because you're trying to bridge gaps. You're trying to bridge, you're taking 2 programs or a co-op program, including others, and what are strategies or what are things that coaches can do, that the schools can do, that we can do to make that more seamless or make that feel like kids belong. And the reality is it's, even for a lot of people with sports, it's still about the social activity. It's just the way that they engage. And then the last thing I'll just say is, I think as we look at Crush and those programs, and particularly in the individual sports, I think that's one of the things that the numbers are showing. There are some different patterns that are happening in individual sports. And there's a couple of entrees that I think are helpful in that, given the over-commercialization of our youth sports world, it's really hard sometimes if kids have been playing basketball since they were in 3rd grade, if you've not played, to jump in, at 7th grade or 8th grade. One of the benefits that they have seen from individual sports is there's, like in swimming, you can put a whole bunch of people in the pool. You see it in track and field. I think that, again, there's a little more space that they still get to participate and they can still see development even if it takes a little bit longer because they're not as fast to begin with. I think the challenge in team sports is, you get a group of kids who are already significantly more developed just because of access. And then it's both a psyche thing and it's just a skills thing that holds them back. So I think it is an opportunity, to think about how we talk to students about individual sports and where they might engage, just from a lifestyle perspective as well. So thank you.
Thanks. Al Dahlgren?
Yeah, I think I'm convinced that it is probably the best thing that we can do for this program as it stands right now. So I would like to move approval of the boys swim and dive co-op as presented.
I'll second. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the motion. Or the roll call. Vote.
Natalie Copeland,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes. Scott Andreessen,
Yes.
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Diana Fenton.
Yes.
Moves us to action item C, which is approval of the 2025-2026 membership renewal in the Minnesota State High School League. Then Dr. Jason Harris on this.
The administration would like approval of the renewal of the 25-26 Minnesota High School League participation.
I guess I would be, are there any questions? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott Andreessen, second by Natalie Copeland. We get a roll call.
Diana Fenton. Yes. Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Scott Andreessen,
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes.
All right, that would move us to action item E, which is approval of the 2025-2026 membership renewal in Association Metropolitan School Districts. And thank you.
Are we doing, did you say the Metropolitan School Districts or the School Boards Association?
I'm sorry. Renewal of the Minnesota School Board Association. Item D. So I
D,
correct
okay.
myself. We are now on item D, approval of the 2025-2026 membership renewal in the Minnesota School Board Association, presented by Dr. Lori Putnam.
Thank you so much, Acting Chair Dorholt, members of the school board. I'm going to give you an overview of, and to our listening public, about what the school board does, the School Board Association does, and share some of the dues information. So the Minnesota School Boards Association provides support to school boards across the state through advocacy, board development, and policy and legal guidance. The membership dues for our school district are $15,188, a $363 increase from last year, with the policy service renewal dues being $760, which is a $10 increase from the past year. We also pay $2,950 annually for a subscription fee for Board Book, which is the online program that houses our board agendas and meeting minutes. Administration recommends approval of membership renewal in the Minnesota School Boards Association and MSBA Policy Services for the upcoming school year.
Any questions? Scott Andreessen?
Is there some sort of a breakdown on that $15,000? What do they do with it?
So that would be let me go back. So they advocate, they develop board development, and then they give legal guidance and policy guidance.
Itemization.
We did not receive that.
I would say they pay salaries with that. That's what they pay for their staff with. So, I mean,
They do publish that yearly.
they put on the conference and they do, and there's a number of things that they do. I would just say that, hey, I'd like to give a public kudos. A year ago, we were kind of hard on the School Boards Association. So I'm going to give some public kudos to Kurt Schneiderwind, who has been very, very receptive. I sat down at the legislative conference down in the Twin Cities with Kirk and had a conversation with him afterwards. And he was up here that was on a Saturday. He was up here on Monday, I think, meeting with Dr. Putnam. And the relationship has done a 180 since then. A year ago, we had the AI conference. They didn't even want to talk to us. They didn't want to participate. This year, they led the charge. They were advertising it. It's been a complete 180. So I'd like to give kudos to Kirk and his
Yeah.
responsiveness.
And if I could also add to Gary Lee, who has really led been in deep partnership with us with Gen AI and has gotten us in front of multiple cooperatives around the state, right? Just helping to build a coalition in education. And though you probably haven't gotten to see her nearly as much as I have, just being out and about, Tiffany Guston, right, as with their finance, she's really effective, right? She's not as effective as Amy in terms of communication, because Amy can make even me understand, school finance, but she is really stellar and does an excellent job representing school finance needs around the state. So I would agree with you, Al. It was a little rocky for a bit, but I'm very appreciative of the ways we've seen those engagements.
Other questions or comments?
Did you have a motion?
I would, if we don't have any other questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve item D.
I would move that we approve our renewal of the membership in the Minnesota School Boards Association.
Second.
Okay. For roll call?
Heather Weems, yes. Diana Fenton.
Yes.
Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Scott Andresen.
Yes.
All right. Action item E, approval of the 2025-2026 membership renewal in Association of Metropolitan School Districts, AMSD.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to provide you with an overview of the history, purpose, and benefits of our membership in the Association of Metropolitan School Districts, which I will heretofore refer to by the acronym AMSD. We have been a member of AMSD since 2009. While we were the first district outside of the 7-county metropolitan area to join, Rochester and Duluth have since followed our lead, and I think Mankato too. The Association of Metropolitan School Districts represents over 50 K-12 school districts, intermediate and cooperative districts, and integration districts. AMSD member school districts enroll more than 1/2 of all public school students in Minnesota. The mission of AMSD is to advocate for metropolitan school districts and advance legislation that supports student achievement and fiscal stability. We saw AMSD play a valuable role during this past legislative session in guiding and lobbying state policymakers, and their efforts aligned well with the needs of our school district. Their key areas of focus this past year were to keep the formula linked to inflation, gain flexibility in funding streams, and fend off new mandates. Membership benefits for districts such as ours, a regional center, are important. As you know, districts like ours are unique in that we are surrounded by school districts that are much smaller, have different school populations, and the opportunities and challenge that we experience are more similar to many of the metro districts and certainly the regional centers compared with our neighbors. So because of this, AMSD membership is helpful to me, to our executive team, and our district leadership and team in general, because we have the opportunity to attend AMSD meetings and collaborate with other district leaders and their board members facing issues similar to ours. And so administration recommends the approval of membership in AMSD for 25-26 in the amount of $11,939, which is a $51 increase from the previous year.
Any questions? If not, I would be looking for a motion to approve action item E.
I move we approve action item E.
Second.
Motion by Scott Andresen, second by Heather Weems. If you would take a roll call on that.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Diana Fenton.
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes. Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
All right, action item F, summary evaluation of the superintendent. And I do believe. Yeah, that's okay. I gotta turn my pages too. This will be presented by Natalie Copeland.
Yes, it will be presented by me, and I even have it up, so I swear I was prepared. Just have something to read for the 2024-2025 Superintendent Evaluation Public Report from District 742. On behalf of the District 742 Board of Education, we extend our sincere appreciation and strong support for Superintendent Dr. Lori Putnam following the completion of the annual review process. Her recognition as the 2025 Minnesota Association of School Administrators Superintendent of the Year and election as chair-elect of that same board reflect the widespread respect for her leadership across the state's education community. Over the past year, Superintendent Putnam has demonstrated exemplary leadership, strategic vision, and a deep commitment to the success and well-being of every student in our district. Through effective collaboration with district leadership, staff, families, and the broader community, she has helped guide the district through both opportunities and challenges with professionalism, transparency, and purpose. Key accomplishments this year under her leadership include number one, strategic system alignment. Dr. Putnam continued to refine and integrate continuous improvement plans, or SIPs, across schools and departments, ensuring teams have clear goals and are aligned in their support structures. Number two is leadership development. Dr. Putnam maintained a strong focus on building leadership capacity throughout the district, promoting a culture of distributed leadership and shared responsibility. And third, transparent, values-driven communication. Her consistent open communication has built trust across stakeholders, most notably during the Apollo referendum, which she had at least 1.2 million meetings. Or what was the actual number? 93, okay. Where her leadership and clarity helped unite the community and contributed to its successful passage. The board recognizes and values the superintendent's dedication to fostering a culture of excellence and innovation across all our schools. She consistently models effective communication, thoughtful decision-making, and a deep understanding of the complex needs of our educational system. Board members have expressed high regard for Dr. Putnam's leadership style and impact. As one board member shared, I am very appreciative of Lori's work and believe she is an exceptional model of leadership and public service. I appreciate her responsiveness to the board and community, and also her willingness to delegate responsibility to her leadership team for action in their areas of responsibility. We are fortunate to have a superintendent who guides us with compassion, pragmatism, and honesty. As we look ahead, the board is excited about our district's future under Dr. Putnam's leadership. We remain committed to working together to prepare, engage, educate, empower, and inspire all learners to thrive in today's and tomorrow's world. 742 proud. Thank you. I know that's a lot of talking about you, which you don't like, but we had to do it yearly. So thank you, Dr. Putnam.
And I don't know if there's any other questions or comments? Otherwise, yeah, we did. And it is an action item, so I'd be looking for, oh yes, Dr. Putnam has something to say.
I just want to say to this board, thank you not only for your kind and generous words, but also for the kinds of support that you give me every day for some of you. And I really value this board because each of you will bring a different perspective to one topic, and really be okay with hearing wonderings, curiosities, not only from each other, but from me. And and yet we do it all, you do it all, with civility and respect, and care, and with a foundation of being about every kid, right? No matter what perspective or role, how long you've been here, that is what unites us. And I listen to other superintendents, I watch the news, and it's not always pretty out there. And so I just want to acknowledge that, name that, and know to each of you that you have my sincerest gratitude for making this job easy, along with this beautiful executive team, and I will introduce them all momentarily when I get to my superintendent's report. But they too walk beside me day in, day out, and sometimes it is actually day out. It's into late hours and early mornings, and I wouldn't want to do this without you, this board, and this team that I work with, so thank you.
I was looking for a motion to recommend adoption of the summary evaluation of Superintendent Dr. Lori Putnam. Roll call.
Scott Andreessen,
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes. Diana Fenton,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt,
Yes.
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Right. Moving on to reports. We have a superintendent's report and any standing committee reports.
Legislative.
Oh,
Lori's going first.
gotcha. All right. So we have a really cool, super awesome, I'll spare you my poor Chinese. Let Lori take it away.
Yes, at one point I was told not to try to speak Chinese because it was embarrassing to myself and apparently others around me. So I'll do it all in English, only because that's the only thing I can do. Before I begin, though, I want to just introduce all of so that you see some new faces who have joined us. And so obviously we have Dr. Harris and Nikki Hansen sitting beside us, the assistant superintendents who span all the way from PK to 12th. And then we have Amy Skellerud, our business and finance executive, Tracy Bowe, our Executive Director of Human Relations, Labor Relations, and additionally added this year, General Counsel. Matthew Boucher, who is our Executive Director of Operations. He comes to us most recently as a principal from Spring Lake Park High School after, 12, 15 years of administration at both high school and the middle level and teaching experience as well. And then Danny Mayer, a familiar face, has worked in our district for a long time, and reluctantly, I've asked her a while now to step into this role because she is just a stunning administrator for our special education students, just with deep compassion for students and families. So really grateful, Danny, that you finally said yes. Persistence. And Katie Herbold, who is our Executive Director of All Things Innovation, Instructional Technology, what's the other one? Information. God darn it. I'll get it, yeah. And again, Katie's a familiar face, having worked as taught in our district for a hefty amount of time as a science teacher, and then an innovation coach, and then I am grateful she stepped into this role and has just done an exceptional job getting us started and grounded in those departments. So that is our team. You will see us in and out of committee meetings and here at board meetings. So thanks. And now I'm going to talk about China. So this board graciously agreed to send me and Tracy Bowe on a superintendent's delegation to China in end of June. It was, and I'll talk about a little bit about who is there, but one of the reasons that this board allowed that is much of the funding was paid for by some of the host organizations, the schools, because we toured mostly private schools. And one of my goals this year of the three is to really invest, not necessarily always financially, but in terms of education and effort in our immersion programs, knowing that they are really a unique opportunity that is unmatched in this area. And so wanting to really engage, and I'll talk more at the end about the ways that will look as benefited from this trip. If this will go. No? There we go. So here is the list of the delegates. And you can see the purpose there was to create partnerships with schools in China, to expand opportunities for our students in Chinese immersion program, to learn about their education system, and collaborate with our Minnesota delegation partners, which actually turned out to be one of the jewels, right? A little unexpected gift that I got, getting to get to know these people, because we spent every waking minute with them. So. So you can see there they crossed many districts. Angela Mansfield, our assistant commissioner from the Minnesota Department of Education, was there, along with principals and superintendents from across the state. So the way our time worked is that we would get up every morning and head out to visits to either K-12 schools, higher education organizations, or governmental entities, right? Departments of education, though it's structured a little bit differently there. So you can see here, these are the education visits that we did while in Beijing, and we always took photos. And so you can see that we saw some of those important, the Chinese Center for Language Education and Cooperation and the International Education Foundation were some of our sponsors. They are very invested in creating partnerships for bilingualism between the two countries. And then we would have lunch all together. You'll hear that often, and off to the Beijing cultural visits. So really, truly, this was an incredible experience to be able to see things that in my life I never thought that I would get to see, and to really experience some of the treasures of the Chinese culture. So you see there's Tiananmen Square, the Great Wall. Kept thinking that I could just climb to the next outpost, and it never ended, right? Because it's 6,000 miles, but it's an illusion, right? I thought we could get there. No. And then the Temple of Heaven is there. So really, this is just some highlights of what we saw. We would have dinner, and then sometimes there would be evening events, or we'd collaborate on some of the things that we learned. From Beijing, we hopped on a plane and flew to Hangzhou, which was our second of 3 stops. And there we got to see I'll say the Greentown Primary School and the Hangzhou Foreign Language School. And they were another one of the main sponsors of the trip, that Hangzhou Foreign Language School. They're when you come up to it, there's security. It looks like a college campus. There's about 2,500 students, and they teach 5 different languages in immersion, and the president of China, his actual daughter went there, and so did I think one of the founders of Alibaba. So it's an incredibly important institution in their community. And the 2 of those sponsored the AI and STEAM conference, where I get to share some of the great work that's been happening here in collaboration with folks like Katie and her team, and Donna Roper, Justin Scalarud, Jason Harris, and the secondary principals as well. There's the International AI and STEAM Education. There were 4 speakers, and there were 2 from schools. There's a principal from Boston who was pretty cool, and then a woman from China, and then a guy from a company in Colorado. I don't recall exactly all of it, but you can see that's one of the slides that I presented about our ethical AI framework that was established with that team of stakeholders like parents, students, teachers, and administrators a couple years ago. So while we're in Hangzhou, we saw a lot. We were there 5 days, I think. So we saw West Lake, which is one of the, it's a beautiful lake, and there was just an incredible show where they performed on the lake in the evening. And it looked like they were just floating and dancing, and it was done to music. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Jiji National Wetland Park, where we had a couple boat tours over the days, got to learn about the flora that was abundant. Went to the Hangzhou Silk Market, and then we also got to see Alibaba headquarters. I was super excited because we thought we were going to go to DeepSeek, and so I was really excited about seeing DeepSeek. And unfortunately, that got canceled. They did get us into Alibaba, which the other English-speaking delegation who was at the AI STEAM conference, they were a conglomerate of states, had sent a delegation, and they did not get in. So I am grateful that we did get into Alibaba. It was not guaranteed. And then we got to see a tea plantation, which is over on the far left. And then we took a high-speed train to Shanghai, and that was our final stop, where we went to the International Education Association of Shanghai. There was a team of public schools who came to see us, and that was the first time that we had really engaged with public schools. And prior to that, we had seen mostly private schools. And one thing I took away from this trip is that money is certainly a common denominator across cultures, right, in terms of dictating opportunity and access. And then we went to the UNESCO Teacher Education Center, which was an international training site for teachers, learned about how they prepare teachers, particularly around immersion, and that was a really neat experience as well. Here in Shanghai, we went to boy, I think it was like 98 degrees with the same amount of humidity. But Tracy and I braved the heat while others did not. And we went to Chinatown at Old Shanghai, saw Yu Garden, and then went to Starbucks Reserve, which was like the largest Starbucks in the world. So that was kind of interesting and cool. We didn't drink any coffee. So thinking about some next steps, what are we taking away from this? So we are meeting next week. I'm meeting with several of the superintendents who have Chinese immersion programs in partnership with Minnetonka to develop shared resources. And our plan is to create an in-state conference for our Chinese immersion teachers, administrators, students, and families, really to do a collaborative in-state effort, because we all want to work together to pool our resources, and having those connections will be really exciting for us. We made a job offer while we were there to this lovely man who is the director of that Hangzhou Foreign Language School that I told you about. So he just has a really incredible pedigree in terms of having taught there, assistant principal, and now director, which is right between the State Department and the school. And so not only is he an excellent educator, he just loves teaching and loves students. You can just feel the energy that he brings, which is a very peaceful and calm and competent sort of energy. And so we are working. He said yes. He has been to Minnesota before. He's just spent a year in White Bear Lake, but he said yes to us. And so we are working on getting his H-1B. He will be moving here as soon as that comes through, and it'll be exciting to have somebody Chinese leading the program. We've had many Spanish speakers in the past, but to have a Chinese person leading both, right, because he has decades of immersion education experience. It was quite a coup on Tracy's behalf, so thank you to her. We are also, we're going to start, we set the date at the end of August. I think it's the 26th. We're going to be restarting the immersion family educator advisory groups that I'll be attending, just to start to connect the two programs, the Spanish and the Chinese, and really start to build stakeholder engagement around that. They are our best marketing tool, and they want to be. And so really excited about bringing them together. We are working on creating sister school relationships. I know we have one in Chiching, I think. Changzhou, I don't know. Well, something like that. So we do have one sister school. What is it? Changzhou, yeah, something like that, you're right. But we want to be able to develop additional ones, because that gives our students more opportunity for virtual interaction and dialogue. They are very interested, as are we, in setting up some experiences where they could come live with us, our families, our students could go live with them, and really do some deeper learning. And then that's the partner exchange programs and homestays. I couldn't think of the language. So really excited about some of the things that have come out of that. Potentially some additional funding to support some of those sister school relationships and the partners, the programs, and the homestays. So that is a quick rundown of our trip. We wanted to be very transparent about what we did, what we learned, and what we are bringing back to benefit our students and families.
Any questions for Superintendent Putnam? Scott?
You had an assistant commissioner of education along. Is there any chances some money there that'll help out with our programs?
You know, I certainly can't speak for what MDE's commitment or capacity can be. I know that Assistant Commissioner Mansfield was very engaged in the trip. She is over Compass, and so right, she doesn't do. Right, she's not the assistant commissioner for teaching and learning, but she has stayed engaged with us throughout, even as we go back. And I cannot join us at the next meeting or when we meet next Thursday, but has indicated her commitment to being a good partner to us in the extent that she can.
Apparently, Minnetonka has gotten some money over the years from China. Any chances of getting a little money there?
Yeah, that's certainly a conversation that we've begun. As I said, they are interested in supporting those sister school relationships, right? Some of the exchange programs, the homestays, supporting some of the, potentially even the in-conference. But Minnetonka, I have to say, Superintendent Law and the Joe and Lillian, who was a elementary immersion principal, and the immersion teacher who coordinates much of their program, have been nothing but gracious and amazing, and want to help us and help the other folks who have really stepped up and said, we need you, we want to help, we want to grow, and they're. Superintendent Law has said go, so they're really giving us a lot outside of funding. They're very much giving us a lot in terms of expertise and time.
Any other questions? I mean, is that the end of your report? All right, well, thank you. I'll look forward to just a lot of seeds planted with that, so it's exciting. Other standing committee reports? Al Dahlgren?
The Board Legislative Committee met on July 21st. Discussed second half of the year here in the likely agenda, what the agendas are going to look like. First, we decided that we should be looking at topics to submit resolutions to the MSBA Delegate Conference. Delegate Conference happens first week in December. Resolutions are due to the MSBA for that by September. They'd love to have them earlier if they could. They're open right now to receive them, but we have to put them together. So likely, so anyway, I'll get into what we discussed doing for resolutions. But we will be bringing them forward at the next meeting, the first one in August, second one in August, for a first reading or to the board or for the discussion. We'll be bringing it to it's a work session, right? We'll be bringing it to the work session for the board to discuss these resolutions. And then the second one, we would be voting on, and it's required now. It used to be that a board member could submit a resolution on their own to the delegate conference. Now it's required that they be passed by school boards before the delegate conference will consider them. So we would bring them back at the first meeting in September for consideration by the board, and then we would submit them immediately following that. The topics, so there's a number of things. But once the School Boards Association puts something in their legislative, it's not their platform. Their platform comes from their legislative priorities. Once they add it to their legislative priorities, and that comes from the resolutions that are submitted at the delegate conference and voted positively on, it goes from there, it goes into their legislative priorities. And the way I understand it from Denise Dietrich is that it stays there forever. And so pulling a copy of the legislative priorities, it kind of looks like that's the case. It stays there forever. There's a lot of old and outdated things. So the first thing that we discussed is having a conversation with the Minnesota School Boards Association about them coming up with some type of a process for eliminating old, outdated items from the legislative priorities so that they're actually a tool that they can use to move forward. Because what they say at the conference is the legislative priorities, what they are is if a legislator asks us a question on a topic, we can go to our legislative priorities and we can give them the School Boards Association's legislative position based on what's in that booklet. So it has to be updated, and I know Denise mentioned to me that she was currently looking at some sort of a process, but I think we should encourage them in doing something to get that taken care of. In the legislative priorities list, we had a couple of items that we wanted to bring forward. One would be paid family leave, which starts next January. It's a 0.015% from an employee and 0.015%, 0.055? 0.44 then from, it's paid half by the employee and half by the employer. But nonetheless, the costs, it's a new tax. So how is that going to be paid for? And that's already in their legislative priorities. That was brought forward a year ago, I believe. And it's in there, so we don't need to bring that forward. I think unemployment was obviously in there, and that's a few years old. And then what's the third one? That doesn't affect us really too much was the safe and sick time, which is another unfunded new tax on businesses and school districts. But we did talk about a few different things that we would like to bring forward. And so the first resolution would be a resolution to make improvements of fixed playground equipment to be an LTFM expense. Right now, there's no method of paying for the improvement or installation, not installation, but improvement, replacement of playground equipment. The only way that you can do it really is through fundraising or through a referendum of some sort to devote dollars for it. But they are fixed pieces. They're part of curriculum. We need them in our schools, so it really should be part of that. So Josh is going to put together a resolution for us on that. Second one was a resolution to update the funding for extended learning. Amy, you weren't at the meeting, and maybe you can talk more to this one, but as I understand it, it's been fixed for a long time.
I don't think it's been changed since the time I began as an auditor, which is 20 years ago about. So
And it's a dollar amount.
it's a fixed dollar amount, yeah, and it's not tied to the formulary increases like the regular formula is, which is potentially one way, to put that in a resolution to tie it. But certainly the costs of providing extended time instruction have changed slightly in 20 years' time. So you would think that the formula should change to keep up.
Yep, so that would be our second one, and that'll come forward, and it'll have, when they come forward, they'll have what the resolution is, and then it will also have the rationale behind it. Resolution 3 would be a resolution on generative AI literacy to include responsible use and data privacy. It's just really an update. We adopted, the ones that we brought last year were adopted, but this is an update to them. So similar to what I was talking about with updating their legislative priorities, this would be an update for them. And then the fourth one that we would bring forward would be a resolution requiring a task force be created with the goal of a statewide DPA that includes language about AI, so it's another AI one. Resolution number 5 on here is not really a resolution. That was the asking the School Boards Association to come up with some type of a process. In October, we're going to look at the development of the MSBA board legislative platform, or we're going to look at the board legislative platform. And then, let's see, no, we're not going to produce, I'm just reading this. That's it. So, I mean, there's a couple of things that we're not going to do on there, but if we're not going to do them, I'm not going to report them.
Is there going to be an election of delegates coming up, or are we using the same ones as the last year?
There's a 100% of the delegates will be re-elected this year, so that happens soon. But I haven't seen anything from MSBA on it yet, but I believe it's all delegates need to be re-elected this year, so we may or may not. We can submit resolutions whether we have a delegate at the conference or not. It's just if we have a delegate at the conference, the delegate gets the opportunity to read the resolutions and actually speak on behalf of them. Whereas if we just pass the resolution and send it down there, the Minnesota School Boards Association does that on our behalf.
You and I have been delegates in the past. I just wondered when the election is coming.
Have to wait to get notification from Minnesota School Boards Association that the election is on. But yes, so anyway, in October, we're going to start working on the legislative platform for our school board that we would use with our local representatives. So that is it.
Any other committee reports? Ms. Heather Weems?
The Board Finance Committee met on July 14th. The first agenda item was multipurpose athletic facility project update. David and Brady from JLG Architects presented an update on the new multipurpose athletic facility, which was approved in the April referendum. The presentation included information about the site layout and parking, exterior design, landscaping, interior floor plan, mezzanine, entrance, storage, field layout, and turf options, field markings, safety netting, lighting, scoreboards, and signage. The next step is to review pricing and finalize the design so that we can move forward with design development and bid. This will be brought back to the Board Finance Committee in August to review pricing, and a presentation will be made to the full school board in September. We also talked about scheduling an additional Finance Committee meeting. Amy discussed the need to add an additional Finance meeting in July. The agenda will include an update from JLG on the Apollo referendum project, as well as information about options to convert restrooms at Tech to single-user restrooms, like what has been done at Apollo and McKinley. That meeting is scheduled for July 31st at 3 o'clock. And finally, we discussed Apollo parking lot change orders. Amy reviewed several changes for the Apollo parking lot project due to large total dollar amount. These will be on the consent agenda for the board meeting today, which we approved.
Any other committee reports?
Not a committee report, but I could talk about something.
Is it, then can we, yeah, is it for a future agenda item? Do you have something on the agenda?
We had a meeting yesterday with Grey Nut.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. For the,
Okay, I don't know if people know what Grey Nut is. Back in the 1990s, the city of St. Cloud and the school district got together and decided that they needed their own internet system. So we formed Grey Nut. We each made a contribution and started laying a conduit between all our school buildings and all of the city buildings. And over the years, that has grown. There's been other government entities that have taken an interest in it also. And we laid the conduit, we pull the cable through it. As years have gone by, cable's gotten old, we pulled that back out and put in fiber and upgrade. And it's become quite a substantial system. Benton County and Stearns County and lots of cities are buying into the Grey Nut system. And it doesn't really cost us very much to build this because we have the ownership of this conduit, but we have companies like Arvig come in and actually build it, and then we lease it back to them at a cheap rate. So it doesn't cost us hardly anything. We've been doing this for many years, and it's worked out very well. One of the things that I asked them was, hey, we got a new athletic center coming in, and we have Apollo High School. Do we need to get some conduit out there to the athletic center? And they said, yes, put it in the ground. And then we'll run fiber when we need to run fiber. Well, I just did some checking, and I think we got about a week, maybe 2 weeks before that parking lot gets finished. But hopefully we can get it in the ground. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you.
I think it's important to note that the granite is owned by the city and the school district cooperatively, and anyone else that's using it is leasing fiber from us, and that's what brings the cost down. We collect a lot of money in leases from cities and townships and schools. I mean, St. Cloud State uses it, Benton County uses it, Sauk Rapids uses it, Sartell uses it. And they're all leasing fiber from us, so they're getting high-speed internet through our system, which we own, and we own the cable. And that brings down the cost. And in a lot of cases, just to get the fiber to their building, they'll lay the fiber, pay for the cost of it, and then lease the service back from us. So, but the ownership remains with the school district and the city.
Even the state of Minnesota's in on it. They run cable down the I-94 corridor. Well, they are also creating a ring through St. Cloud so that if there's a break one area, it can still run information backward. But it's great. It's a good system.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Looking for a motion to adjourn? Any objections?
Second.
All right, I think that ends the board meeting at 8:49 PM, and we'll see you next time.
I'd like to remind you all that my first July board meeting, we're here until just after midnight.
What's that?
My first year as superintendent, we were here until just after midnight on that July meeting. Remember?